Good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Betty Lasky, and I want to thank you all so much for being here today. And I particularly want to thank Governor Hassan for this bill signing ceremony. This has been a truly momentous year in terms of passing legislation aimed at protecting New Hampshire's victims of crime and their children. It's also been gratifying to see that it's been an effort that has brought together so many people from different disciplines, agencies, and areas of the state, uniting us all in this effort to stand up for victims of domestic and sexual abuse. The journey with Senate Bill 253 has been a long one, but I'm proud to state here today and say that with the passage of this bill, women who become pregnant as a result of rape and choose to carry their pregnancy to term will not have to live in fear of further traumatization at the hands of their rapist. We know rape is the most underreported violent crime in the country, and here in New Hampshire, only 3% of rapes ever result in a criminal conviction or guilty plea. By requiring a criminal rape conviction before giving the court the option of terminating the parental rights of a rapist, we hold rape victims to a higher standard than anyone else in our present termination of parental rights statute. With the passage of Senate Bill 253, women in this unthinkable position now will have the option of a fact-finding hearing, one that does not rely on a criminal conviction, at which time they will have the opportunity to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that their child was conceived as a result of rape, at which point the court shall terminate the parental rights of the rapist, giving the woman and her child the freedom and safety to rebuild and move forward with their lives. I particularly want to thank Ms. Shauna Pruitt, a Chicago-based attorney, advocate, and rape survivor who traveled to New Hampshire for the hearing on this bill and bravely shared her story of having to fight her rapist for years in court for custody of the daughter conceived through her attack. In sharing her story, she illuminated for us all the need to rectify this situation here in New Hampshire, and I am exceedingly grateful to her. I am very proud that this was truly a bipartisan piece of legislation, and it brought together so many organizations they may not frequently find themselves on the same side of an issue, but who work together tirelessly to advocate for this important cause. I want to thank the New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, New Hampshire Legal Assistance, NARAL New Hampshire, Cornerstone Policy Research, New Hampshire Catholic Charities, the Diocese of Manchester, and Ending the Violence for all of their efforts and hard work towards supporting this important bill. Thank you all for standing up with me for these victims and their children. Again, thank you all so much for taking the time to be here today, and certainly for all your hard work throughout this session. Now I'd like to introduce Representative Jean Chandler, House Minority Leader, to my right, and co-sponsor of both Joshua's Law and Senate Bill 317, our human trafficking legislation. Representative Chandler was instrumental in getting these landmark pieces of legislation passed, And we thank him, and we are glad he's here with us today. Senator Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Governor. It's a pleasure to be here, and I was very honored to ask to be a co-sponsor of these incredibly important bills. I think in my mind they're overdue, but you know, these things take time. Those of you who follow the legislative process are aware of that, but it finally happened, and I think it's great. We need to, the legislature, the governor's office, all of us involved in government need to make sure New Hampshire continues to be at the forefront of domestic violence legislation. It's critically important. It's something that we should not in any way let go unnoticed. We need to take care of it, and I think these bills go a long way to doing that. I didn't name all of the folks because I do that at the risk of leaving them out. But all of those people that Senator Lasky named did yeoman's work. I've never been involved. I can tell you when I have some bills, I'm going to come asking you for your help because I mean, these people, they were just there all the time. If anyone on my side of the aisle had a question, they were willing to go meet with them and talk to them and iron it out. I mean, they just worked tirelessly. And they're the ones that should be thanked because they did all the hard work. So thank you very much.
I'm Senator Donna Soucy from Manchester. What an amazing day. What an amazing day to see so many of you here. And what an amazing breadth of legislation we have been able, by working together, Democrats and Republicans, to accomplish. You know, this Sunday, Gary Rayno wrote about this being an important time for victims. And I think it's an important time not just because of the protections and the punishments in this legislation, but it's an important time because over this session, through each one of these pieces of legislation, people have come forward to tell their stories. People have come forward to inform this legislature and to inform the public about what some of the problems are, what some of their experiences are. On Senate Bill 253, as Senator Lasky mentioned, Shauna Pruitt's brave story of her experience, having experienced rape, deciding to go forward with a pregnancy, and then struggling to be able to provide what is best for her child. Senate Bill 253 will make that an easier process for all New Hampshire residents. And of course, Senate Bill 317, human trafficking. Holly Austin Smith came forward to tell us her story, not just of the pain and suffering, but explain to all of us how important it is that New Hampshire remain at the forefront. As many of you know, New Hampshire was one of the first states to enact a human trafficking law. And thanks to her help and the help of so many here in this room today, we have made that law stronger. We have made that law better recognize that punishment is important, but the needs of victims are important as well. And those needs will allow people to rebuild their lives, to restore their dignity, and to go on to become citizens that no longer live in fear. And lastly, Senate Bill 318. What an amazing journey that has been for everyone in this room. And I am so pleased that Becky Rains is here with us today. I can't begin to tell you how much I truly admire her strength and her passion. It's Becky that led the way on Senate Bill 318, and thanks to her, thanks to Becky's hard work, thanks to Becky's willingness to tell her story, the story of her son Joshua and their experience, all New Hampshire families, because of the new crime of domestic violence, will be able to know that there are greater protections and that law enforcement and judges and lawyers will have better tools to protect all of our families and all of our children. This is truly a historic and important day for not just victims, but because victims have been empowered and because all of us will be better. All of us will be better protected because of each of these pieces of legislation. And I want to ask Becky to come forward.
Hassan, and good morning to you all. You have named this law in honor of my son Joshua. This is a fitting legacy for him as Joshua cared deeply about helping others. We lost Joshua to a most horrific act of domestic violence. Joshua's law will help protect so many others who, like him, have been exposed to domestic violence. As Joshua's mother, it was important to me to support this legislation in his memory. I wanted to do something that would help lessen the chances of losing another child in New Hampshire to domestic violence. Joshua's law will do just that. I wanted to extend a special thank you to you, Governor Hassan, and to all the legislature who sponsored this bill. Thank you also to those who supported this bill and the family and friends who helped support me through this process. I'm very appreciative of the support I received from Amanda Brady-Sexton and Jessica Eskelin of the New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. I'm so very grateful to you all for playing a role to protect victims of domestic violence and for commemorating Joshua's life in such a special way. Thank you.
And of course, all of this legislation and all of the people that came together played an integral role, but certainly throughout all of this legislation from its start to today's culmination, the strength, dignity, determination, and most of all, leadership of our governor are what helped to bring all of these pieces of legislation here. So I want to thank the governor personally, and I'm sure I thank her on behalf of everyone. Thank you, Governor.
Well, thanks to everybody who is here. This is an extraordinary group of citizens and survivors who became advocates who brought us all together to make New Hampshire a safer place. So let's start by recognizing everybody who's here for all the work you did. Thank you. Thank you as well to the sponsors of these bills, Senator Susie, Senator Lasky, Senator Hosmer, Senator Waters, Representative Chandler, Representative Webb, and all of the bill co-sponsors from both parties. I want to recognize as well the New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence, and all of the advocates whose efforts helped pass these important bills. You heard Representative Chandler, who is certainly somebody with considerable experience in this building, recognize what an extraordinary job you all did. So I want to thank you all. I want to especially recognize Becky Raines. Yesterday was the one-year anniversary of her son's Joshua's tragic murder. Becky, although there is nothing that we can do to relieve the pain that you bear every day, your remarkable courage in sharing your story and advocating for this law inspires all of us. And because of your efforts, our state is safer, our children are safer, and our families are safer. Thank you. By passing Joshua's law, New Hampshire has finally joined the majority of states in establishing a specific crime of domestic violence, which will help law enforcement and prosecutors better identify and stop repeat abusers, while providing victims with access to support and protections as early as possible. This bill had overwhelming bipartisan support because it will help countless families and communities, and I'm proud to soon be signing it into law. New Hampshire has long been recognized as one of the safest states in the nation, but our ongoing efforts to ensure public safety never cease. In addition to Joshua's law, I'm also proud to sign 5 other bills today that strengthen public safety and reinforce our status as a national leader in protecting our citizens. Senate Bill 317 takes significant steps to strengthen protections for human trafficking victims, and it had unanimous support in both chambers because we all know that we must do whatever we can to address this heinous crime. Senate Bill 253 will help protect our children, allowing the court to terminate the parental rights of a father who is convicted of or pled guilty to sexual assault in the act of fathering a child. In order to strengthen our sexual abuse prevention efforts, Senate Bill 348 establishes a commission to study prevention education in elementary and secondary schools. And to ensure that victims of domestic violence receive fair and just treatment with the same opportunity to hold a job as everyone else, Senate Bill 390 prohibits employers from discriminating against victims in the hiring process. Further, Senate Bill 390 advances domestic violence prevention efforts, creating a committee to study the protection of employees from domestic violence. All of these bills are common sense measures with bipartisan support, helping to ensure justice and protections for victims and improving the safety of our families and our communities. And when we talk about improving safety for our families, we mean for all members of the family, including our pets. So today I will also sign House Bill 1410, which includes household and domesticated animals under the Domestic Violence Protection Statute, and frankly takes away one more element of leverage from an abuser. Thank you again to everyone here for their efforts to make our communities and our state safer. I am honored to now sign Joshua's law in memory of Becky's beautiful son, as well as these important other measures. Thank you all for being here. Everybody should gather around. Senate Bill 318 is available for law. Senate Bill 317 is law. Senate Bill 348 is very good. I'm very pleased to just sign Senate Bill 390. Senate Bill 253 is now gets us to and House Bill 1410 is now signed. Congratulations, everyone. All right, I'm going to back the chair up.
Try your name.
How's it going?
They used to be.